When it comes to the 3 days of darkness, I am going to show you deep, high and powerful knowledge pertaining to the 3 days of darkness. The world is not ready for the things that I am about to reveal. God is behind this darkness. The inner voice whispered. Man is a threefold being. Like the resurrection of Christ on the third day, man must awaken to the threefold consciousness of himself. Now, what this truly means on an esoteric level is that the tree represents the triple states of consciousness, and you have to go through these 3 states of consciousness in order to become supremely enlightened. Now, 2013, I have out-of-body experiences, and I know how to raise the vibratory rate of the physical body so that we can connect to Christ consciousness, or in other words, communicate with God. So 2013, I was under this star apple tree in my backyard meditating when I began hearing the voice of God. I see behind the physical earth, or if you want to say within the physical earth, a deep state of darkness. But the surprising thing is that this state of darkness wasn't the darkness of this world. It was the darkness of the spiritual world. But the darkness of the spiritual world is light. But to the physical eyes, it is darkness. But to the spiritual eye, or the inner eye, or the pineal gland, it is light. Genesis 32 verses 30 states, "And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved." Meaning that if you look through this eye, the pineal gland, and some people call it the third eye, you can literally see God. Now, God dwells behind a deep state of darkness, which is triple darkness. The light of this darkness is the pineal gland. Like the anglerfish deep down in the dark depths of the ocean, which has an antenna connected to its forehead, it has a bulb on that antenna which lights up the darkness. Likewise, the pineal gland lights up this darkness like a sharp sword cutting through a thick veil of darkness. In this darkness, you will hear inner voices and inner visions, which is the voice of God, guiding you through this darkness. You have to go through these 3 states of darkness to find your way back to the source. Within this darkness at first though, I was afraid to go into it because I thought that it was Satan, or in other words, the devil as a dragon that lived in this darkness. But because of my unquenchable thirst for knowledge and hunger for righteousness, I went into this darkness to find God. As I go down into this darkness, the deeper I went, the more the visions intensified, guiding me along the path. Now, when I went to the deepest level of the 3 states of darkness, which most people are calling the 3 days of darkness, I stumbled upon God frighteningly, but only to stumble upon my own divine self. Hence the saying, I was lost, but now I am found. I can understand why people are afraid of the dark, because from an early age, we were trained to be afraid of the dark. But that darkness is not the darkness of this world. That's why most people who are looking for the physical darkness as they see in night, during night, they are not going to see that darkness. The darkness that is going to be on the earth and that is already on the earth forever and forever will be the darkness of the spiritual world. But to the physical eyes, that darkness will be like darkness, but to the spiritual eye, it is light. So when we hear of the scriptures speaking about the sun, the physical sun turning into darkness when the Son of Man returns, the sun is an illusionary light, because behind the physical sun that we see outside in the sky is really an illusionary light, because behind it is a spiritual sun, or an invisible sun behind it, which gives life to the physical sun. And then the physical sun sends that light energy to the physical earth. But to the inner eye, or the pineal gland, or the third eye, this sun is darkness. So if the eyes are closed, this sun, you cannot see the light of this sun. But when the eyes are open, you can see the light of this sun. Likewise, this sun is darkness to the pineal gland, but to the physical eye, it is light, and vice versa. So therefore, when the pineal gland activates, this sun will be literal darkness to the pineal gland. So we must learn to master fear and go into this deep state of darkness to find God, to find back your way to the source, to your divine self. So the darkness that people should be afraid of is not the darkness, the spiritual darkness that is on the earth at this time. It is a deep level of consciousness. What people should be afraid of is the darkness of ignorance, meaning lacking of knowledge, because people perish because of lack of knowledge. And fear is a great obstacle that blocks the pineal gland from opening. So we must learn to let go and master fear. When it comes to the world ending 2012, not because people don't see a physical destruction of the earth 2012 or 2020 doesn't mean that the end is not at hand, or that the end did not happen. What the Mayan prediction of the world ending 2012 is absolutely correct. But people are taking it for a literal date, or time, or year, and it has nothing to do with that. The world ending 2012 really means the duality, the duality coming to an end and manifesting into oneness. So you have masculine and feminine energy. It won't be a dualism anymore. The two of them will come into one. Good and evil, which most people have it that good will defeat evil. But really and truly, both are one forces performing opposite roles. So the two of them will come into oneness. So the oneness is the key, like in the movie, The Matrix, the oneness, which is the light of love. So the spiritual world and the physical world will manifest into one. Light and darkness will manifest into one. And you will have the fifth element, which is love. And that is the key to manifesting both worlds into one. There are two worlds in one. So that is the end, which is 21. Because if you flip 2012 and put it into the mirror, shine it into the mirror, for example, it would turn upside down, representing 2021, which means that two forces will merge into one. That is really the end of the world. And on a higher level of spiritual reality, there is no end of the world. Because when I'm out of my body, I can see that the earth has many different dimensions, like tracks. It is divided into tracks. So each track or dimension you go into, the earth is more spiritual. And you can do this by raising the vibratory rate of the physical body higher and higher. So what happens is that the earth has an end, but that end is not outside of the earth. It is within you, just like how death is not outside of you. So you are trying to escape death by running and hiding from death. You cannot run or hide from death. Death is within you. So therefore, the end of the world is within you. The end of the world is like a line drawn between here, this physical earth, and the spiritual earth, or the spiritual world. So when you reach the end of the physical world within yourself by raising the vibratory rate of your body, you find that you cannot go over to the other side with this body. This body has to be left behind. So people who die really vanishes from this world. But why you don't see the body vanishing with them is that because the physical body cannot go into the spiritual world. So therefore the soul comes up through the mouth, up through the crown of the head, and goes off into the spiritual world, leaving the body behind. But if the body could go into the spiritual world, then you wouldn't see a physical body after death. The body would vanish with the soul. But because that is not the case, you see a physical body left behind after death. So therefore, the end of the world is really a line drawn between the spiritual and physical world. And when you reach that line, the end of the physical world, which is that line, looking over onto the other world, that is what you call the end. So when you cross over to the other side, this world ceases to exist up here. So that is really the end. So it's like the end of the world is really death. So when you go over into the spiritual world, it is darkness. But that darkness, as I said before, is not the darkness of this world. So 2012 is really the 2 in 12, and the 1 represents 2 worlds manifesting into 1. Just like how it is said in the scriptures that Christ has 12 disciples, and also that Judas betrayed Christ for 30 pieces of silver. The 3 wise men, which are the 3 stars of Orion. Peter denied Christ 3 times. These are all metaphysical representation of the 3 states of consciousness. You have to master the 3 state of consciousness, which is the 3 state of triple darkness, to become highly enlightened. So I have to go down deep into this level of darkness in order to find God. So we have to face that darkness within and face the darkness without, which is outside of us, in order to become supremely enlightened. So this is the esoteric breakdown of what really is the 3 days of darkness, triple darkness, which are the 3 states of consciousness. And this is melanin. I hold in my hand the symbol of Eden. It is a feather, a pigeon's feather, given to me by God. This represents the duality of nature, which is the yin and yang, seen in Masonic art or in Chinese philosophy. Now, this is the key to this physical and the spiritual world. Time and space is an illusion. How I know this is from personal experience. When I meditate and increase the vibratory rate of my physical body to a higher frequency and go on the God level, time and space is non-existent there. That is why when my breath returns into my body when I'm gone out, and I return back into the body like this, I make a deep inhaling sound. When I thought I had gone for 4 minutes, I was gone for 4 hours. So time slows down or comes to a standstill. That is the realm of God. So when I'm on that higher vibrational frequency, things manifest rapidly or instantly, immediately. However, when I'm down on the lower physical vibration, it takes years to happen. So if I want something to happen immediately, I increased the vibratory rate of my physical body to a higher frequency, and that thing happens immediately. The world will end 12 midnight. But this 12 midnight is not a specific year, date, or time. It is a representation of 2 things manifesting into 1. Here we go again. 12 midnight as symbolized by a half moon, half light, half shade, represent 2 things coming in back to 1. Because in the beginning, or in other words, before the beginning, everything was 1 until it became split into 2 which is 11, or 1 1, which are reflections. These two reflections are at war, constant war with each other, which represent duality, good versus evil. So the two of them are always at constant war. What must be done? The two of them has to manifest, which is 2 or 1, 12, must manifest back into oneness. So when I say the world ending at 12 midnight, it represents half light, half shade, and the full light consuming the darkness and becoming a full moon or a full light.
During a night meditation, I saw the transformation of my soul from paleness to darkness. I watched my pale self as it disappeared into the dark night and became one with it. Your soul must become as dark as night. Your soul must be like the dark skin of a person that cannot be seen at night. The inner voice whispered inside my head. When the dark night comes, no paleness must be seen. In the evening when it's just becoming dark, your soul must become darkened as the night comes, whispered the voice. When the darkest part of the night comes, the deeper out into the darkness you will be, and the higher in consciousness you will also be. If your soul is very pale, it is the longer the paleness takes to fade out into the darkness. Only the darkest part of the night can overcome the soul that is very pale. A person's soul which is already dark is one with the dark night, and a person with a paler soul cannot be high in consciousness as him. From this, I realized that we are the people of the dark night. We are the dark night.
The thing is that with spirituality, I cannot reveal everything to you at once. I have to take you through stages, because imagine 10 billion volts of electrical charge going into a 60-watt bulb. It would fry and break that bulb. So therefore, I have to reveal things and take it step by step until you get to your destination. I cannot just come down like a rushing river and just pour out everything on you. I have to spoon feed you little by little until you get there.